yourself when Conor Benn charged at you on the pitch?
Honestly, I swear down, not at all.
Not at all.
Look at Eddie's reaction versus mine.
You did look chilled, I've got to be honest, because we just talked about your personality.
I think I've stuck my hand out, which you would do, taking a step back, and was going to crack him. And then
I was going to crack him. You didn't stop smiling either, so you didn't flinch. And yeah, Eddie Hill was good.
Ben Shalom didn't hold back in his interview with Carl Froch, making it clear he's standing his ground ahead of the highly anticipated fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. As Froch recalled the heated moment when Ben charged at Shalom, it was evident just how composed Shalom remained amid the chaos. While Eddie Hearn was laughing and stirring the pot like a schoolyard instigator, Shalom stood firm, unfazed, and unshaken. He wasn't about to be rattled by Ben's theatrics or Hearn's antics. Instead, with a calm and collected demeanor, Shalom made it clear he wouldn't entertain any nonsense. Beyond the drama, the bigger picture remains. Eubank Jr. is here to dominate, and Shalom already has the backing of the fight world. The real question is, when the bell rings, will Ben be ready for the storm heading his way?
If you like Conor Benn, I think he's great value. I think he's like the perfect guy to build such a big fight, and Chris just winds him up. And yeah, I honestly, I would say if I was, but I would say a 3.
Yeah,
in terms
I believe that. I mean, you could easily bullshit.
Ben Shalom didn't hold back when discussing Conor Benn, but when it comes to Chris Eubank Jr., the praise flows effortlessly. Eubank Jr. isn't just a fighter; he's a force of nature in the ring, and Shalom knows it. While Ben brings his own fire to the table, it's Eubank's superior technical skill and raw power that truly set him apart. Shalom also points out how Eubank Jr. has a knack for getting under his opponent's skin, especially Ben, which only fuels the excitement for what could be one of the most electrifying matchups in recent history. Beyond his boxing ability, Eubank's resilience and mental fortitude have been tested time and again, earning him a reputation that extends far beyond just his skills in the ring. His fighting style is, in many ways, unmatched. When he steps between the ropes, the entire atmosphere shifts. Make no mistake, Eubank Jr. is a fighter fans can't afford to overlook. But here's the question. When these two finally collide, who comes out on top?
So, yeah, I think the difficulty for Conor Benn in this fight is the weight and is the size. I think he's a better fighter. And I think at a natural weight class, he's a big favourite in the fight. But coming up 2 weight classes, it makes it a 50-50 fight. And you ain't going to blink.
But here's where things get interesting. Eddie Hearn isn't sugarcoating it. Conor Benn is diving headfirst into what could be a disaster. The real issue isn't his skill. It's the sheer size difference. Jumping 2 weight classes isn't just a challenge. It's a career-defining gamble. At his natural weight, Benn would have been the clear favorite, but now the stakes are much higher. Eubank Jr.'s size, reach, and raw power could quickly turn this fight into a nightmare for Benn. The moment Eubank Jr. starts walking him down, cutting off the ring, and imposing his physicality, Benn could find himself in deep waters. One misstep, one slip, and it could be over in an instant. The power dynamics in this fight are staggering, and both men are stepping into the ring with everything to prove. The burning question remains, will Benn's hunger and relentless aggression be enough to overcome the size gap? Or will the weight difference crush his hopes before the fight even truly begins?
It's quite difficult sometimes, especially if you're dry like Chris Eubank. He will struggle to stay within that 10-pound limit. I have a feeling he won't do it. I have a feeling he'll agree to it, he'll pay a fine, and maybe weigh in 15 or 16 pounds over.
Who did he fight recently and he looked like he was completely dead at the weight?
Last fight.
Was it Liam Smith, the first one?
Yeah.
He looked awful.
Brutal. That's how hard it is to make. That's why I think it's kind of the rehydration clause puts things slightly more into Conor Benn's favor.
But here's the twist. Carl Frampton isn't buying into the hype. He's raising serious concerns about Chris Eubank Jr.'s ability to make weight, and these aren't just baseless claims or sensational headlines. Frampton believes Eubank is in real trouble, especially when it comes to cutting weight, a process that drains him completely and leaves him struggling to maintain his strength. He even envisions a scenario where Eubank agrees to the terms, but ultimately shows up significantly over the limit, perhaps 15 or 16 pounds heavier than expected, opting to pay the fine rather than push himself to a dangerous extreme. Let's not forget what happened against Liam Smith. Eubank was visibly drained, and that wasn't just a one-off. The rehydration clause adds another layer of risk, as it allows fighters to regain fluids, but can also lead to unpredictable consequences. Frampton sees this as a major advantage for Benn. Eubank is walking a tightrope, and if the weight cut takes too much out of him, it could spell disaster. The real question is, can his body withstand the strain, or will the cut break him before the fight even begins?
And Chris Eubank Sr. was pushing very hard for that should be the fight with the Benn family, not his son,
Harlem.
Chris Eubank.
Listen, go on, sorry.
Well, I was going to say that we could well see a Benn Eubank 4 if Ben succeeds in a way against Chris Eubank.
On the flip side, Adam Catterall isn't holding back, diving straight into the family drama fueling the rivalry between the Eubanks and the Benns. He calls out Chris Eubank Sr.'s hypocrisy, pointing out how he relentlessly pushed for a showdown with the Benn family while conveniently avoiding one with his own son. Catterall doesn't mince words, and his criticism hits hard, exposing contradictions within the Eubank camp. But he doesn't stop there. He stirs even more excitement by suggesting that we could be on the verge of Benn versus Eubank 4. If Conor Benn pulls off a shocking victory, or even puts on a strong performance against Chris Eubank Jr., this rivalry is far from over. Catterall's bold prediction is fueling fan speculation, and the real story here isn't just about a single fight. It's about an ongoing saga that could go down as one of boxing's most legendary rivalries. The stakes have never been higher, and with the countdown to April 26th ticking away, the anticipation is only getting more intense.
Scales again.
It may be a very disappointing fight if we find out when Chris steps in there against Conor that he is much, much too big for him. But I think they'll play 12 rounds and I think we'll get 2 fights.
Meanwhile, Adam Catterall isn't holding back, diving straight into the looming disaster that could unfold if Chris Eubank Jr. steps into the ring against Conor Benn. The glaring weight difference between them is impossible to ignore, and Catterall is quick to highlight how it could overshadow the hype, turning what was meant to be an explosive showdown into a one-sided affair. But he doesn't stop there. He raises the stakes even further with a bold prediction, suggesting that despite Eubank Jr.'s overwhelming size advantage, the fight could still go the full 12 rounds. This unexpected twist adds a layer of uncertainty, leaving fans on edge, unsure of what to expect. Catterall's gut feeling casts a shadow over the event, raising serious doubts about its outcome. The burning question remains: will Benn's skill and relentless heart be enough to overcome Eubank Jr.'s sheer size and power? Or is this highly anticipated rivalry destined to collapse under its own weight? The stakes have never been higher. Will the fight live up to the hype, or is it bound to disappoint?
I think it'll be a mismatch, just as much a mismatch as the presses have been. It will be a similar format, playing out in the physical. Chris is way too much, and that will become evident as the rounds go on.
On the other hand, Harlem Eubank isn't just making predictions. He's making a bold statement about what's to come. In his eyes, this showdown is shaping up to be a complete mismatch, a fight where one competitor is simply outclassed. From the press conferences to the intense build-up, Harlem sees a clear divide between Chris Eubank Jr. and his opponent. He's adamant that once the bell rings, the gap will become even more evident. With Eubank Jr.'s size, power, and ring presence, Harlem believes his cousin will take control from the very first round. As the fight progresses, Harlem expects Chris to assert his dominance to the point where his opponent simply can't keep up. In his mind, this is destined to be a one-sided beatdown, with Eubank Jr. proving to be far too much to handle. But then again, boxing is always full of surprises. Could a shocking upset throw the entire fight into chaos? Or will Eubank Jr.'s superiority be undeniable?
We are on good terms. I don't believe he didn't know about it.
No,
If he,
you know I didn't know.
No, I don't, because I think you're a little bit snaky.
No, you know I didn't
No,
know.
no, no.
Don't talk.
No,
Don't talk.
quiet because
No, can't say things.
no, stop, because then I'll take you through it. Listen, I've been very nice to you
but you
lately,
can't say
and I've
things
been very
after.
nice to you lately. I've given you a big education in the
Yeah,
last
but you
couple of
can't
weeks.
say things
I've told
after.
you were very lucky to be talking to me, right? But we do get on well. We actually have a bit of banter. He actually, if you don't mind me saying, he was asking me potentially to go on Boxer's Ball.
Yeah.
On the flip side, Adam Smith didn't hold back when addressing the escalating tension, openly expressing his frustration over the situation. Despite being on seemingly good terms with the other party, Smith wasn't convinced by their claims of ignorance. He wasted no time calling out what he saw as a calculated attitude, making it clear he didn't buy into the narrative of unawareness surrounding the unfolding events. His irritation was evident as he admitted to being overly accommodating, only to be met with dismissals and subtle disregard. Yet, despite the growing tension, Smith managed to lighten the mood, recalling some humorous exchanges that had taken place. Even in the midst of the friction, there was still room for a laugh. He even jokingly hinted at the idea of joining them on Boxes B, leaving fans to wonder whether it was just a casual remark or something with deeper meaning. Despite the underlying conflict, the complex relationship between the two sides remained, leaving many unanswered questions hanging in the air.
Sometimes I have a little bit of weight to train up. Not a lot, but and I think that's what Eubank's got, whereas Conor is already at the weight, or there or thereabouts. So that's also a benefit in the sense like he can now just completely fuel his training and fuel his performance. But it's always going to favour the bigger man. It's always going to favour the bigger man. But age is the biggest factor for me.